What's going on, guys? Back again with another episode, and today we're going to be diving into training styles. So you want to tell them a little bit about what we got today, Nate?
Yeah, so we're going to dive in a little bit of the, which is catch and hate, but the old school versus new school theory and some of the training basics and kind of our ideas on that, how everything's evolving.
Yeah, and we were just talking a little bit before we got on air here, just kind of, tossing around some ideas of what to talk about. So we came up with some really good points. We just kind of wanted to keep it simple and break it down. But we've both kind of done the old school thing. I've always been a hard and heavy training kind of guy, especially coming up playing sports. For anybody who's played sports or who has been a part of just any program that's had like a good weightlifting program involved, a lot of it's just revolved around strength, especially like high school football coaches, things like that. They just want to see those big bench presses and things like that, but it's not always getting the most out of movements. Are you able to lift heavy weight? Yes, but is the execution the way that it should be to target the actual muscle group that you're going for? Especially, when we're, bodybuilding, we're trying to get the most out of the least. We're trying to maximize each training session, so each rep counts, right? So we're actually trying to get the most out of those sets. Every single rep matters. If you guys ever see any of my PR videos or anything that I throw up, my last rep will look almost identical to my first rep. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit more struggle there, but there's not going to be like, any real momentum in the movement. I'm really trying to control every single aspect of that so that way I can get the most out of the movement. So
I always preach, especially with training newer clients who want to evolve into bodybuilding. Bodybuilders control the weight. Power lifters move the weight.
Yep.
So that's my biggest philosophy on it.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between the two for sure. And not to hate on any old school training styles. Not to say that they're not effective. Obviously you see bodybuilders do it all the time. But, I would argue that there's ways to do things a little bit better that's going to tax the central nervous system a little less. And obviously, whenever you're training, if your recovery sucks and your training's going to suck, if your recovery sucks, your growth is going to suck. You're not going to be able to get the most out of everything that you're doing. So a good split, whenever you build it out for a client, right, and you got to have the weak body parts intertwined just to make sure that it's a healthy balance, you got to make sure that recovery is there. If you're not recovering from your first leg day, there's no reason for you to already be doing a second leg day. We need to have that good system flow where we're hitting muscles, they're recovering just in time to be touched again, volume throughout the week, and good quality reps on those, not just, taking every set to a failure. One of the big things is on the market right now too that people hate on are reps in reserve. And I think a lot of people just don't understand how that works and understand the benefit of it. They just instantly, you're not training to a failure, you're not training hard.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the case at all whatsoever. It's just you're leaving a little bit in the tank and you're pushing it, and you're still going to be sore the next day. It's not that you're not. It's just you're not running a set all the way till you can't do it anymore. And a lot of times that's where you see guys get injured too when they're doing that over and over and over and over again. Me being one of them, I used to barbell squat all the time, and I've had 2 quad tears now. So doing that hard and heavy over and over and over again, it wears on you. And we were just talking about this before we got on air. I've done up to 8 or 9 plates per side on a hack squat without a band. I know a lot of people hate on the reverse band idea. I think that's another thing that's just kind of misunderstood. But, I've done 8, 9 plates, and I haven't been nearly as sore in my quads the next day as I have backing the weight down, adding a band, slowing the movement down, getting the most out of it, remove momentum from the equation, and drive out of the hole with your quads only. And I'm wrecked the next day. We were just talking about that, just a minute ago.
I was sore for 6 days, just literally coming down, counting that 3 seconds, and then pausing, popping back out. And then with that reverse band hack squat, back down to 5 plates. But I was sore for 6 days straight, versus the 8 or 9 plates coming down, moving just that constant motion, slowing it down to 3 seconds, controlling it, stopping, driving up only with the quads, no momentum. That was a game changer. That was a totally different. And even, hack squats. I'm not discrediting the hacks or the barbell squats or the bench press. I think that's really still a staple for young guys starting out.
Yeah.
But I think everybody focuses too much on the weight number. They're too much they're going with ego.
Yeah.
You get injuries. Now, I know you've had 2 quad tears. I've trained old school for most of my life. Knock on wood, I haven't had any bodybuilding injuries.
Yeah.
Thank God. But I think that becomes too much of a staple for the younger crowd where they see that and they're just constantly going for the PRs, not giving the central nervous system time to heal because they don't understand that yet. They just think the muscles have healed, but the taxation that goes with the central nervous system just isn't recovering.
The problem I see most is people are always looking for an answer as to why they aren't getting better, and I feel like training is never on the table for why I'm not getting better. It's never the training. It's always, my drugs aren't high enough, or I'm not, recovering like sleep-wise enough. I'm not, it might, be something I'm eating or something like that. And it's never, all right, let's dive into how you're training and actually how can we make this more effective, more efficient, right? Like as a bodybuilder, we're trying to make everything as efficient as possible, right? So everything, every single day, every variable matters. And we want to get the most out of every single one of them. So how do we do that? And that's having a good training split layout and utilizing a lot of these newer techniques to make sure that we are recovering in time. We can train hard and we can train under heavy loads and continue to do that over time in order to build a quality physique. And like you said, I feel like people are just more focused on lifting heavier weight, which, that's not wrong. That's not the wrong idea, but there's more to it. It's about efficiency of the movement and actually executing it the right way to target the muscles that we want to target. Because, speaking of 8, 9 plates per side with no band, the next day I felt more on my knees, back, and everything else. I felt like I got hit by a bus.
It was the joints that were.
And at the time, I'm like, man, I'm getting a good workout because I'm training it. But the next day, my legs wouldn't be all that sore. It'd be more like my knees, my back, my neck, my hips, things like that. So, you slow down and you try to actually make the movement, basically get the most out of it. I feel like I get way more engagement from the muscles I'm actually trying to target. And obviously, lower risk of injury too. You can train under those heavy loads and you're not risking injury as much because you're recovered. You're not doing just a ton of sets that are heavy over and over and over again. You're just doing 1 or 2 working sets, very heavy, but you're also going slow and maximizing time under that load.
And I would venture to have someone who is in let's go with bodybuilding client who says, well, I'm not growing, and like you said, they're leaving training off the table, so they're gonna increase the drug dosage. They're gonna increase calories. They're gonna increase all the PEDs. So let's slow down a second and let's videotape your workouts and let's pinpoint and show you, okay, this could be done with better form. This could be done with more time under tension. And I think people really need, personally, I know you're big on it too, I know you are, but the logbook. So instead of focusing on, okay, I'm going to come in and I want to add a plate this week, let's pull out the logbook and let's say, okay, I did 11 reps. I'm going to do 13 this week. Stop going with the ego and the plates. Go with the logbook and let's beat the rep and let's learn how to control it better the next week before we go up in weight again.
I agree. And that's the thing is it's not always about weight. And that's one of the things that I tell clients, and I'm also going to be doing in my videos I told you about, just to further educate my people. But it's not always, a PR isn't always necessarily weight, right? So say we do 6 plates on a hack squat one week and we get 10 reps, and you feel like you're fucking dying, right? And by, you get done, you're ready to puke, like your stomach's upset, like you literally feel like you gave it all on the table. Next week you get 10 again, but it's a little less hard. That's still a PR. You're still progressing. You got 10 again, yes, but it was easier than the other one. Did you get that extra rep and make it 11? No, but you got to 10 and you didn't feel like you were about to pass out, throw up, sick.
Capacity.
And then you get that confidence too for the next week. You're like, oh man, I got 10 this last time. and I didn't feel so bad. I'm going for that 11th rep.
Right.
I'm going to get 11. And then, who knows, you might pull 12 or 13 out of your ass because you have confidence going into that movement.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm big on my feeder sets that we've talked about, building up to getting the confidence to move those loads. You pre-exhaust a little bit in the process, but you're warming up, making sure everything's good. And you're, whenever we're lifting, everything is a skill, right? It's a skill acquisition over time. You get better at it as you do it, and you also get more comfortable once you get under heavy loads for a while, because you know you can do them. Mm-hmm. Chris is a prime example, right? Chris, that I work out with, he is very strong, but sometimes, like on our pressing movements, he lacks that confidence still. And he knows this because we've talked about it, but he'll kick the dumbbells back, and I think it's just like, oh shit, this is heavy. And like sometimes I still do that, but after years of training, I've learned, I'm like, I got this shit. Like, I know I can push these up. Like, yeah, they're heavy, but like, once I get them up, we're good. And Chris will sometimes be hesitant because he's still kind of learning his abilities. And I just put my hands on his wrist, and I'll just put them there. And he just instantly gets stronger. He's just moving them for more and more reps, and he was slowing down previously, like he was about to stop almost, or like he hit a wall. Mm-hmm. I just literally put my hands on his hands, and and I'm not doing anything. I'm just literally like grabbing his hands.
Subconsciously, confidence.
He gets that confidence. Oh, he's helping. Like, no, I'm not. It's just, and I do that, and you'll watch in our videos, like once I see him kind of start to slow down, I'll put my hands up, and he usually bangs out 4 or 5 more reps. So I think that is one of the things, just getting used to being under heavy loads, which transitions into what you were saying with, heavy compound movements in the beginning, I think are awesome for beginners. I think is the meat and potatoes. That's how I built a lot of my physique. But you reach a point where loads are just it's causing more harm than it is good. So that's where we get into the more advanced movements and trying to actually, execute more efficiently under heavy loads so we can do it for extended periods of time.
This sport is about longevity.
Yes, and that's what we create by moving into these more advanced movements. But like, when I get a starting client, if they can, unless they have injuries, I'm doing a lot of like barbell bench press, barbell squats, barbell rows, barbell deadlifts, things like that I did that are old school, seen as old school, but I'm still nitpicking form and making sure that we're doing quality form. We're not just focused on going up at weight.
Right.
And for people like me and you, it's a lot easier to like do these advanced movements, like push towards that, because we've done all the old school stuff. We've built the strength. We've built the foundation of the house.
Mind-muscle connection.
Now we're moving into the actual pieces that make a house, not the foundation. Foundation's built. We're moving on to like more advanced movements to get the most out of it and build the best house on the street. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's the thing, I think people, they hate on it because they don't understand it. But if I see people doing these movements, I'm like, okay, they're more advanced.
Right.
But then you do have the younger crowd who needs to have a little bit more of old school style training and kind of learn the basics, doing all these advanced movements that they see on Instagram. And it's like in my opinion, they're getting into it a little bit too early, and they need to like push that down the road a little bit. Kind of build the strength, build the foundation, and then push towards making the house and the best you can.
Using your house reference, I've always looked at it. I've always looked at it as you're making a sculpture, you're being Da Vinci, whatever. Yep. But you have the foundation and you chisel it, you build it, and now you're going to fine tune it. You're going to put in the definition.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it's good to have all the tools in the tool belt you can, and that's pretty much what we do. And that's why we, set up training programs the way that we do.
But it's funny, going back to Chris though with his confidence, because the other day on hack squats, I wouldn't have put 10 I wouldn't put 5 weights on each side unless I saw you come downstairs.
Yeah.
But you coming over and you being there, that first round was hard as
yeah, push it, man.
But mentally you were there, so I was like, I'm doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the next week when we trained together, dude, I controlled them better. I came up, I did more reps. I wasn't grunting and screaming like the first time. But, I mean, that just, for me, that's newer age stuff for me, because I'm just used, I was stuck in that protocol where it's, okay, let's add some weight and let's move it. But this time under tension is just a whole new realm.
And it's easy to get stuck in that. And I was there for a long time, and honestly, this past year, really stepping into the new school and learning, I had to unlearn a lot of things and relearn new things, and it's just, I think a lot of people don't do it because they're not comfortable with it, and it's not what they've always done. But it's like, I think if you get stuck in that mind of thinking, you're never going to get better. Doing something over and over and over again and getting the same result, it's insanity. Literally, like you're just doing the same thing expecting a different result. You're not going to get a different result. It's going to be the same thing every single time. And I think that's, I don't know. I think if people can set their ego to the side, like I did this past year, and just try to learn, try it, and learn how to do new things, they would honestly enjoy it. Because I did, but I've always loved getting under heavy weight, you know what I mean? But I had to just kind of shift styles of training and learn new stuff. And this reason it's new, there's new research on it.
Right.
It's just not, it hasn't been done for a long period of time yet, but in the future it will be. It's going to be, the new school training now is going to be the old school way in the future, because they're going to have new shit come up then. This is always evolving. I think you got to learn to evolve with the times. That's just my opinion on it. I think there's a lot of movements that I personally see hated on. Like, one is like the ban on the hack squat, which I really don't understand why you would want to protect the integrity of your knees. I really don't. And you're removing momentum from the equation, so you're forced to use quads to drive up. To me, it doesn't make any sense, because the reason you're utilizing a hack squat too is because you're able to get more knee flexion and more range of motion than on a barbell squat, especially once you get to be as big as I am. And I think that's why I had my quad tears,
right,
because I'm big on form. I'm always, all the way down, all the way up, ass to grass. But if you're putting yourself in a position that your body isn't really capable of, you're forcing it into that position, you're gonna get hurt.
Exactly.
And that's why I got hurt. But on a hack squat, I'm able to get that range of motion, and I'm able to sit back and get all the way down and get that knee flexion that I need for targeting quads, and not, put myself in a position that my body doesn't want to be in.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
100% on that. And on a barbell squat, I can guarantee you, I'm not going to get that range of motion unless I push my body past it.
And you're also, you're putting your body in a very vulnerable state doing that, because again, you're forcing it into something that it doesn't want to be in. Over time with heavy loads, like, you're gonna pop a quad. That's what happened to me, man. But if you watch my video, man, yeah, I'm all the way up, all the way down, good form. But like, being that size and getting like all the way down, and plus my legs are wide. Like, you really have to set yourself up to be able to get down like that. But on a hack squat, I can bring my feet in close and focus on bringing my knees over my toes and just using my quads, not utilizing anything else. You know what I mean? So, that's really the whole point to the new school training. Is it's just, people have studied it and they figured out how to make it more efficient and get the most out of it every single time you set foot on the gym floor. And that's why I'm big on logbook. It's just like, you should have a goal in the training. You shouldn't just be like lackadaisical about it. You know what I mean? It should be one of those things where you're in there with a mission. Like, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get 6 plates on the hack squat today for 12. That's my goal.
If I don't have my program and my logbook, if I think I'm going to come in and just go through a workout, dude, I'm lost. I'm like, oh, shit, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's, I think people should utilize it more. And that's one of the reasons I want to do my classroom videos for my clients, just break that down and answer questions that I get all the time. Because I feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I don't like that. Like, as a coach, I hate that. I'm like, I want to give my people as much info as they need, almost to the point where they're a little overwhelmed.
Right.
They're like, holy shit, I have like homework to do tonight. Yes. But it's like, that's your job as a coach, man. It's not just to write you a plan with chicken and rice and eggs and all this bullshit. It's literally to educate your people and to be there for them, and that's like 90% of the job. Like, it's not necessarily writing a program, it's being there to educate them and push them, and honestly nitpick. We were just talking about that. A good coach is going to point out areas of improvement, period. I'm not just going to give you the thumbs up all the time, like, hey, like, you're doing great. If you're not doing great, I'm going to tell you, like, hey, we need to work on this, we need to work on this, we need to work on that. Like, I'm also not going to be a bully about it. It's going to be professional, but me as a coach, like I want to see my people doing great because it makes me feel great.
Right.
I love seeing my people succeed. You know what I mean? It makes me feel some type of way. So whenever they're not, like it makes me feel some type of way. I'm like, damn, like why are we not getting better?
Right.
Like, all right, and I'm troubleshooting. I'm like trying to figure this person out. I'm like, what do I need to do to push this person in the right direction? Some people need a little bit of a gentle kick, and other ones just want a foot in the ass. It just depends on the person. Sometimes you got to kind of give it to them a little softer, and then other people just want it direct. Like with you, I feel like I could just be very direct.
Right. I want to
like,
know
hey,
what
like,
I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, and I've already told you what we need to work on going into the show. And I'm very like, but I'm already like thinking. As soon as I get a client, my brain's already ticking. Like, all right, what do we need to work on? Where do we need to go? Like, what is our main area of improvement going into this year?
And you didn't
that's
look
how
at
it
me and
should
say,
be.
everything's great. Let's just, let's see how this goes. You told me flat out,
Yeah.
we need to work on your legs.
Mhm.
So what am I going to do? Dude, I'm going to bust ass on my legs.
Posing. I said posing.
Posing
too.
and
And that's another thing I think people underestimate the value of is posing and having a posing coach. Because like you work and spend a lot of money on building the physique, why wouldn't you want to display it the right way? That's like literally buying a fucking nice ass car and putting shit wheels on it. It's just like, fuck, bro. Like, you got to have all of the parts to go into a bodybuilding show and be well at it. Otherwise, you're just honestly, if you don't know how to pose, you're already losing.
You're right.
Like, you're already 10 steps behind the other person that knows how to pose. So
someone can have a better
that was
physique
one thing.
and worse physique. And come out
absolutely. That was one thing I put a lot of time into this past year was actually learning how to pose better and sitting into the poses, being comfortable in them, learning how to do them without having to see myself. And I feel like that was already like set me aside from everybody else, regardless of how I looked. It was how I presented the way that I looked. I think that was just night and day difference alone.
You controlled it so good.
Oh yeah, well by then I'd already ran through my poses so many times. It was just like, I could do it blindfold, half asleep, It's like, I was at 4 a.m. in the morning, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if I can do it then, like I can do it any time of the day.
Right.
So I think that's just one of the, newer school things I think that people need to focus on. I think people have gotten away from posing and they just want to, they want to lift heavy and wear big shirts. Like, I get it. I love that too. But, it's just like, at the end of the day, you need to figure out as an athlete where you need to improve the most, And I think training is one of those things that everybody can stand to improve on, myself included. That's why I have a coach, that I send videos to. And, I tell them, I'm like, hey, pick me apart. What am I doing wrong? Like, tell me what's wrong with this set so I can do better next time.
Right. I don't want to keep doing it wrong.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's just like I want somebody there to constantly give me something to work on too, because it makes me feel better as an athlete that I have things to work on and I'm pushing towards it and I'm getting better at it, So that's why, I have all those people. So I get asked that all the time with my clients. It's like, you're really smart and you have all this education and like you prep clients, so why don't you prep yourself? I'm like, oh no, absolutely not. Like, I got to have somebody telling me what I need to work on and giving me a plan, especially for me to be free-minded to work with my clients. I don't want to be, hyper fixated on myself. I want a plan and somebody to bounce ideas off of and tell me what to do and help me and teach me.
Right.
Instead of me having to do it all by myself. Like, I'd probably run myself in the ground trying to do that.
And I feel like, for me, going with that, I feel like I'm going to have a tunnel vision looking at myself and what I need to change, whereas you're seeing the whole picture. And it's just that much easier when you have someone doing that for you.
Absolutely. And I'll always look at the positives too. You know what I mean? Like, there's always a positive, there's always a negative. And when I'm going through a client's check-in, I'm always looking for a positive first. What have we improved on? You know what I mean? What is good about this? And then I'll kind of start nitpicking. Like, okay, all right, well, we need to fix this, this, and this, but we're doing really well here. And I think that kind of helps keep them just hungry. I like my people to be hungry. I don't over compliment people, but I do try to give them a little bit of hype and motivation, but I don't oversell that because I do want them working hard. I don't want them to think, oh, I got this in the bag. It's like, no, I still want you working hard. I want you to stay hungry, and I want you to keep that initial why I started in the back of your mind. and push towards that. I think that's what's going to build the most successful mindset for that athlete going forward. Like for you, I think a lot of this is about building your business too, and like getting to step into those shoes of like doing something you love for a living. And I'm not going to let you forget that, man. It's like you wanted this, and here we are working towards it, and we're going to do it together. And I think just reminding people that initial why, it really helps them. Whatever that may be. So.
Yeah, I agree with you on saying that.
Yeah, so I think that's the big difference, between new school and old school is just being able to, manage fatigue and, step away from, like some of these old school methods that honestly can, over time lead to injury. And in my opinion, I think you hit a point, especially whenever you're super advanced, that, it's just the pros are, not necessarily going to outweigh the cons. Mm-hmm. And once you hit that window, that's whenever we need to shift. But I mean, that's just kind of my opinion. I'll move people over to it slowly, like fully into that once I'm confident that the person knows what they're doing, what they need to be working on, what they need to be looking for, like their goal at hand. That's kind of whenever I'll make that shift. So. But in the beginning, I will start people out very basic. I'm sure you do too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all
client
dependent. You got to have the strength to be able to move into that next level.
Absolutely, 100%. And I do hate that new school gets a whole lot of hate for it, but in my opinion, dude, it's been way more efficient and effective training for me.
I'll second that.
I mean, and I'm not even trying to be biased or anything. I fully feel like, making that shift is what's helped me a lot. Because I don't ever feel like my central nervous system's fried. I feel like recovery's good. I feel like muscle growth is good. I feel like even my performance all through my prep was really good. Previous preps, my strength would be cut like in half by the end of it. I really didn't lose a whole lot of strength even during peak week. I was still moving pretty good weight. I was backing down on some loads just to be careful because I did feel very dry and crunchy.
Right.
I remember you heard me say that. So I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to be a little light today because I feel kind of crunchy. So I think that was more just me trying to be easy. Not that I couldn't, I just didn't really want to redline it
and being smart.
Week out. Yeah, you got to be smart. And that's the thing is like a week out from a show may not be lifting any PRs. It's just really like going through the motions to get to the stage at that point and trying to remain in that deficit and keep as much muscle as possible. And obviously, the more fatigue you have, too, you're not going to look as good. So it's kind of good. You hit a point where it's good to scale back on the training and not just like hit it as hard as you fucking can. So.
No, I've done I'm sure you have too. I've done the dog craft training. I've done the German volume training. I've done all that. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, with this new school training style, especially with my age, my joints feel better now than what they did in my 20s.
Yeah. And they should. I mean, you shouldn't ever really have that. And if so, something's wrong.
Right.
And that's when we troubleshoot, we shift, we kind of pivot as needed towards something different. Or if we hit a point where something's not progressing, that's whenever I'll shift that in and out. Yeah, and so, I mean, that definitely bleeds over into, something I've talked about on another podcast was, just training rotations for my clients. And that's totally client dependent as well, because I feel like some people need something different to stay focused and to enjoy it. Like if I give them the same thing after, 6 to 8 weeks, they're getting tired of it. Even if they are logging numbers, they're beating those numbers and they're doing a good job, I still feel like they hit a point where they get like burnout on it. My wife is one of them actually. Like, she's been doing it a long time, but I feel like she gets a little, once things become monotonous like that and they just kind of same thing every single day, she gets burnout on it.
That's interesting because I was the exact opposite.
Dude, I am literally a fucking dog. And she hates it because I'm always like, I hate going outside my bubble. It's like my bubble consists of me fucking working, training, and just like putting everything into like, bodybuilding business. Like I have my day. I wish people could follow me around for a day and see how my days are, because it's every second of my day revolves around my business in some form or fashion, whether it's me pouring time into my bodybuilding journey or it's me pouring time into my clients' journeys or just like extra business stuff like we were just talking about that I do on the side to kind of further my coaching capabilities, you know, and like, I'm okay with that. I love that. That is like the only thing I really look forward to is work. Mm-hmm. And like, I know people probably think I'm lying when I say that, but I just truly care about my people. I'm very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about my job. And anytime that I step away from it, I almost feel bad. Like, man, I'm a terrible business owner. Like, I'm an awful coach. Like, and it's like, really, I'm just trying to enjoy time with family or things like that. But I really struggle with it because all I want to do is sit in front of my computer and work. Like, that's literally all that I do throughout the day. If I'm not with a client, I'm working on something for a client, or I'm working on something that's going to help my clients. And anytime I'm away from that, I'm still brainstorming. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still replying to messages. Like, it's just really hard for me to not work. Mm-hmm. You know,
I'm constantly thinking about it. Like, even when I'm out and about, I'll pull out my phone and I'm like, okay, that was a good idea. So I'm gonna save that note and I'm gonna put it down on paper later.
Welcome to being a business owner. But whenever you care about what you do, man, you put your pride into it. But that's, you know, one of the things that I do to help clients stay a little more like entertained is swapping out training. But if we don't need to swap it out, if I have somebody like you that I can give the same thing for long periods of time, that's honestly going to be more ideal, because bodybuilding done right is going to be very, very repetitive. It's very rinse and repeat.
Yes.
And if we can do and maintain the same level of work throughout the year, it's a whole lot easier when we shift from growing phase to dieting phase and back up to a rebound phase. It's a whole lot easier to track where we're at, where we're going, and if we need, you know, something to be changed for recovery, or like when we start carb cycling, we start having high days, things like that. It's a really good telltale sign where we're at and how we're performing. And if we're constantly changing out training, it's really hard to do.
Very hard to track it.
And, you know, I've been on the same training split for so long now, but, you know, and I'll still make tweaks to it. Like, if you check in and you're like, hey, like, I feel like my arms and delts can take a little more work, and I'm like, okay, awesome. I'll add in an extra exercise, or I'll add in a little bit more sets, or I'll add in an intensifier or something of that nature to get us a little bit more work, but it's still roughly the same thing. And then we stick to that going forward. And if it starts to become too much, then we pull back. Or if we can still handle some more, we add some more in. And I think it's a lot easier to build out a program that way and get good feedback and good data to track going forward and make good tweaks for clients. Then we know what's working, we know what's not working, we know where we're at, we know how training performance is. It's just a whole lot easier to do that, but you can't do that with every client. You know, sometimes you have to swap them in and out, and that's why I got my training blocks that I'm about to release. It's going to be the endless method. I know you like that. Huh?
Oh yeah.
Just something that I've thought of, because it's always like one of the things I struggled with when I first became a coach was like, what kind of coach do I want to be? You know, and everyone's always like, you got to have your method, you got to have this, you got to have that. And I've always been very flexible, because I want to dabble in anything that I need to be a good coach. And I don't want to be locked into one certain method, because I feel like that's where coaches go to die. If you are, this method is my method and this is the only one that works, not everybody's going to fit into this method.
No.
Like, I could have got you as a client and you didn't fit this method, you'd be like, oh shit, he's a terrible coach, like, I'm going somewhere else. I want to be able to have so many tools in my toolbox that I can work with anyone.
Right.
And this is going to be my endless method, but it's also subject to change. I'm going to build these out, and it's going to be my system of flow, but it's going to be like interchangeable per client. There's going to be level 1, level 2, level 3, and each one of those blocks is going to be tailored to them in some form or fashion based off of how they are, where they're at, injuries, movements we can't do, things like that.
I like it.
So it's gonna be really cool, and I'm gonna launch a video and like break it all down. It's only gonna be for clients. So if you're not a client, I'd hop on board soon. It's gonna be just like way like, I'm trying to take this as far as I can, and that's one of the things I want to do, just to make sure clients are educated and they have everything that they need, and also kind of help me onboard clients and have my method that everyone's always said that you need, but it's going to be flexible. It's going to be interchangeable. It's going to be tailored to the client, but it's still already set up for me to basically just onboard the client and build it out the way that it needs to for them, you know. And there'll be like levels to it. So we'll kind of start small. You know, we crawl, we walk, and we run. and just build them up. And based off each check-in, I'll bump it up or I'll bump it back. You know, I think it's going to make onboarding clients a whole lot easier for me now that I've got like a large working load, and also kind of have that method that everyone's always like, you got to have a method. Like, I don't think that you don't need a method, but this is just my method. It's kind of, I'm just being a smart ass, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
I agree
it
with
is
you.
like my method, but it's also like
It's
not a method.
It's not a one path or get.
Yeah, it's
get
not
off.
just a one size fits all.
Right.
How about we say that?
Yes.
I like that a lot better. Yeah. I think as a coach, you got to have what you believe in. But I do like, we talked about this on the other podcast too, is that, you know, I've experienced it all from doing it, you know, and I'm also trying to pass along to this is what Alex said, his kids. I thought that was funny.
Right.
Because like as a coach, like you're passing on info, you know, it's like, hey, I learned this is how this goes, like this, like, you know, you're basically just essentially passing down knowledge, you know, of experiences and how to help people, man. So
Keep the sport alive.
yeah. Oh, for sure. And I know I result back to this all the time, but you know, Trent, you know, he's my young client.
Yes.
He's got a lot of potential. I see like my 18-year-old self in him, and like I didn't really have anybody to help me like that, and I want to be that for them, you know. And that's what keeps me going. Is just like making bodybuilding better for the people coming up, you know. It's like, you know, young cats are coming up now, and like they need guidance, man. They need a coach. They need somebody who understands them and that can help them. And you know, I just can't help but to think of myself coming up doing all these dumb things that I didn't really have a whole lot of help with. I had to learn the hard way. You know, I want to make it easier for them and make their journey better, and that's just my way of giving back to the sport. You know what I mean?
That's
So,
awesome.
and that's kind of why I got into coaching, man. I just enjoy it. So that's why I try to like learn new things, and like I'm not always just like, oh no, that's completely off the table. I mean, dude, you can stand to learn something from everybody, to be honest. Like, even if they're not necessarily on your level, personally, I feel like, you know, everybody's got a little something they can offer up. So
You can learn
Yeah.
something from everybody.
oh, for sure, absolutely. So I think that's really good on the new and old school training styles, man. I think personally, you know, if I had to give anybody advice, just free advice, I would say start with your basic movements first. There's nothing wrong with those. That's not what we're saying. I think you can get a lot out of a very basic, simple program right out the gate and just focus on progressive overload every week. And once you hit a certain point, and like you've been doing it for a long period of time, it's kind of time for you to shift into more advanced training styles. And also these more advanced training styles or new school training styles, whatever you want to say, it's more targeted towards what you need to work on, right? So in the beginning, you need to work on everything. Like when I first started lifting, I didn't have a weak body part. My whole body was
Right.
weak. You know what I mean? It's just like I needed to work on everything. So it's not like specific training like we are now. It's like we know we need to work on your legs. So we have specific, you know, movements in there, and we have it set up a specific way to make those our priority. And in the beginning, everything's a priority.
Yes.
And also whenever you're young, you know, you're not training under heavy loads, so you're not really susceptible to a whole lot of injury, and you're not susceptible to a whole lot of central nervous system, you know, just being taxed. Like, you know, you can honestly, like, when I was natural, young, and like just training like that, I train 2-3 times a day and recover fine because I'm so young. But once you start getting older and you start training under heavier loads, you can't do that all the time. You know?
And something I really do want to throw in, this just caught my attention, but especially the younger crowd, and because we had touched on drugs, PEDs. When you're young and you're doing these basic compounds and basic movements, you're gonna see huge gains.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
It's going to keep climbing.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna get to where it starts slowing down. And I think that's a mistake where this young crowd is like, okay, well now we gotta do this. Now I gotta push this. I gotta up the test. Now I gotta throw a trend. And there's no knowledge in that yet.
Yeah. You can tweak the other variables first,
Right.
for sure. I think people jump to those way too soon.
Yes, agree.
And it could always be something else that we can troubleshoot first.
I wanted to throw that out there because I
Yeah.
think that is one of the biggest problems right now with Instagram is that's being pushed.
Yeah.
That is not the answer.
Yeah, never is. And that's why it's good to have a coach, just, you know, keep you within your lane and make sure everything else is handled first. My advice to that for new guys, you know, because I was natural till I was 23, but I learned how to be a bodybuilder first. I did my first show completely natural. I learned how to eat, how to train, how to sleep, get my water in, control my daily variables first before you add anything like that in. There's no point in doing that until you learn how to live the lifestyle. You're not going to get very much out of it if you don't know how to do it. Like live the lifestyle, you're not going to get anything out of adding anything extra in. If anything, you're just going to hurt yourself, or you're going to cause yourself a lot of health problems, or yeah, you're just going to really mess yourself up. So there's really no point in dabbling in that until we get to a point where like it's needed. You know, you can really get to the ceiling, you know, by just like hitting every single variable every day. And once you hit that ceiling, that's when we add in other things to raise the ceiling and make it, you know what I mean, so we can continue to progress and we get outside that genetic potential, like limiting factor there. You're not going to have that when PEDs are in the mix. That's why we do that, just to enhance everything else. So I think that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up, man. So you have another point on that? Or
that was about my only point on that. The only other thing I was going to do, I was going to put you on the spot in the video.
Yeah. All right.
So Christmas is coming up, and supplement shopping on a budget. Let's say you got a lifestyle client.
Yeah.
Not typical bodybuilding client. Let's talk lifestyle, backtrack to that. Husband signs up with you, and wife wants to surprise him and says, you know what, I'm on a $200 budget.
Yeah.
What supplements should I get him that are most important to you that's going to help him?
So are we talking like performance supplements, or are we talking health supplements?
Health
Not
supplements.
like PEDs. I mean like
right.
Actual,
Health supplements, lifestyle client, a little bit overweight, doesn't have a good track record with blood pressure and stuff. You know, we just got the normal.
It's like health supplements.
Yes.
What we're talking. Okay. So obviously, I would always recommend. I think you know, somebody coming in that's not really used to dieting, you're going to get a lot of work or a lot of benefit out of protein powder, just because a lot of people don't get enough protein, and I feel like they kind of struggle to in the beginning. So I would definitely recommend a protein powder, just because it's going to give you a protein source. I always recommend, because most people don't get enough vitamins in, a solid multivitamin like we talked about. Fish oils. I'm big on fish oils. And then, so you said he you know, he definitely has blood pressure problems.
Yeah, he's a little bit high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Nothing too dramatic, but
Yeah.
just
So for blood pressure, I really like olive leaf extract. I don't know if you. Yeah. Okay. I love that. I feel like I've gotten a lot of people off of their blood pressure meds with that diet, exercise, and blood pressure by Revive. I think that's extremely beneficial, and it's really cheap. So that's definitely going to fit in there. Creatine, glutamine, and then depending on the client, I always will recommend, if their sleep sucks, a sleep product, which those are, you know, pretty like reasonably priced too.
Right.
So I think out of that, and then just a digestive protocol, man, because I feel like everyone out there, especially lifestyle clients, they don't realize their digestion sucks, but it does. So I'll get away with cheap first. I have level 1, 2, and 3 that I'll kind of go through. I always try to start the supplements off really cheap. I know that we've talked about this. I'll start level 1 and build my way up, because it does get pricey. But I don't like to hit people with like, here's a $1,500 tab and you just paid me my $300 rate for the month. You know what I mean? So I try to like keep it small, but I'll recommend a digestive protocol, which they can get that really the first step, just apple cider vinegar, lemon juice, water, a probiotic. So that would be in the supplement category. And then probably some digestive enzymes just to help. That'd be like my basic like stack, and that'd be all. Yeah, that'd be well under $200, I'd say.
Yeah, we're pretty dang close. My first pick was going to obviously be an omega-3.
Oh yeah.
Just because there's so many 6s in everybody's diet now, and you need that balance. Multivitamin. I always like the D3 and the K2.
Oh yeah.
Like supplementing together, so probably like Revive Heart, or it has both in one. There'll be creatine, there'll be CAA, and glutamine. Glutamine's going to help with not only the muscle healing, but also good for the lining on the stomach. The olive leaf extract. And definitely a protein powder. But I would probably have to lean into like a liver supplement as well, because someone who's never eaten healthy, like we talked about before in a previous podcast, that liver is going to be kind of stagnant. It's going to need a little bit of boost. So I'm definitely going to throw in a liver supplement.
That's why I like to look at blood work first. If clients have recent labs, I'll look at that, or I'll tell them, hey, look, like, you know, depending on the client, if it's like somebody who's already advanced, I'm like, hey, I need to see labs now.
For sure.
If it's just a lifestyle client who's never really used anything, I'll be like, hey, let's get labs soon, and then I'll go off the labs for supplement recommendations, just to keep it, you know, simple. It's not too pricey. Like, if they don't need it, then I won't throw it in. But if they do need it, I'll throw it in right off the rip. So it really just depends, and I'll start small and work my way up. But I think that's a great stack for sure. I think that's a good ending, though. I think new and old school training was definitely a good one there. I knew this was going to take up all our time.
Right.
We had a bunch of other ideas, and I was like, nah, man, this is going to take up the whole thing. So we'll definitely have some good topics going forward, though. Nate's already brainstorming them all up, man. Yeah, I've been loving having this guy on the team. So, as always, guys, we appreciate you guys for watching. And comment, subscribe, let us know what you guys want to see.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.